Well, welcome to our luxury studios here at the Impact Hub, high atop the building today, interviewing Sam Stoddard, founder of SimpleCitizen. Sam, I appreciate the chance to talk with you a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve.
I thought I'd start at really basics about your company. So what is SimpleCitizen? What does it do?
I think the easiest way to understand what SimpleCitizen is it's the TurboTax solution for immigration. That's kind of a basis, a good place to start when understanding what we do, but we do a lot more than just the things that TurboTax does. It's basically an online do-it-yourself tool for people to file basic immigration paperwork, be that a green card renewal, or citizenship applications. We're enabling immigrants to take control of their case, their situation.
Why did you decide to start a business to do that?
I've always wanted to start a business. Growing up, dabbled a few entrepreneurial activities, but this really fell into my lap about 2 years ago when I experienced the immigration pain firsthand. My wife, Allie, who's originally from South Korea, we got married. And the last thing on my mind was going through the immigration pains. But somebody explained to us that, there's not only does she have to file for citizenship and for a green card, but there's also a lot of paperwork involved. And so, wrestling with that paperwork, I stumbled across a business opportunity.
Great. How'd you come up with the name SimpleCitizen?
Well, SimpleCitizen was something that needed to be the idea. First, it was kind of like this green card processing website, and we wanted it to be simple, catchy, easy to understand, and since we were focused so much on simplicity, we wanted to include the word simple in the title, and then we kind of just stumbled across SimpleCitizen and trying a few different names, and we really liked SimpleCitizen when we did some basic research into the URL and trademark. Nobody had it trademarked. The URL, somebody was just kind of camping on it. It wasn't in use. There's a band out there called the Simple Citizens, but that was kind of the only issues that we had with the name. So it kind of comes across very easily what we're about, what we're doing, and it gives us the opportunity to expand into other markets, which is in the pipeline.
Sam, tell me a little bit about your life. How'd you end up here? Where'd you start? And what are some of the key points you look as you think back on what brought you here today?
So I think what brought me here to Utah was interesting. I had come back from my LDS service mission in South Korea. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and was really excited to go back home to Portland, Oregon. But I also wanted to get a university education. And the first place I looked, being a good Mormon boy, was BYU. And when I looked at the programs that they offered, accounting seemed like a really good start for business, because I wanted to go into business. That's such a broad topic. What does that even mean? When I was looking at the different areas of study, accounting seemed like a good place to start. And they have a really good program down at BYU. And along the way, I kind of fell into this idea. And it turns out that Utah is actually a really good place to start a business. And so I was always wanted to go into business, and actually go into business with my nephew Brady, who's a co-founder. But we always foresaw this happening maybe a few more years from now. Definitely not in Utah. So it's kind of interesting that we're here, but it's always just creating things and building things is something early on, whether I was making movies with my friends, just kind of organizing everybody and attacking projects and getting things done.
On the YouTube video you showed me of yourself strolling through the chaos of Indian streets, you mentioned that you were offered an internship and then a position at KPMG, and you turned it down. How hard was that?
was very difficult because as an accountant, and I was naturally drawn towards accounting because I think there's I have a certain element of adverse to risk. I'm risk adverse in certain ways. That's not all accountants are that way. So kind of jumping into the abyss, the unknown of entrepreneurship was difficult. But it's something that I never wanted to look back and say, well, what if I had done this or what if I had done that? And I knew that trying to do both at the same time just was not going to work. If I was going to do this, I needed to be 100%. And once I had gone through that kind of thought process and logic, it was pretty easy. I knew what the answer was. And so it was hard because I had relationships there that I had made. I was slated to go into international accounting, which is something that I really wanted to do. It's not your run-of-the-mill accounting. And it was going to be, there were elements of it that were going to be exciting. But in the end, I'm very happy with my decision. KPMG is a great firm for anybody looking to start a career in accounting, but it just wasn't the right step for me.
That is a big step. That's a big decision, to say the least, to walk away from a top accounting firm to roll the dice with starting your own business for the first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. SimpleCitizen is in the area associated with immigration. What do you hear from people on the politics of being a business that helps people that are immigrants?
So we learned this early on in the Boom Startup program when we were meeting with different mentors and advisors, just kind of bringing people up to speed. And there's a bit of education around what immigration is and what part of immigration we're focused on. So we're focused on people who have already entered the country legally, who are just merely filling out the paperwork for an immediate family member. So when we talk about immigration and the issues and problems and difficulties with immigration, they're rarely talking about the market that we're focused on, immediate family petitions. When you look at the broader sense of immigration and kind of what the politicians like to talk about, the 11 million undocumented immigrants that live in the United States, a lot of times we'll get questions like, what does that mean for your business? What if immigration reform does get passed? And again, our business model is purely based on the legal channels for immigration. So if or when immigration reform does happen, all that means is that those 11 million people who are in the country will have a path to citizenship. They will start down the pipeline of products that we offer. So it would be a good thing for us. It's something that happened in 2010. President Obama did his executive order. A lot of people refer to it as amnesty.
Oh, the DREAM Act?
The DREAM Act, okay. It's the DACA Act. There's no real amnesty because when you look at the 80-page paperwork that's normally filed with a green card, and then people who qualified for this program had to submit even more paperwork, it just means for SimpleCitizen, there will be even more people that will go through the system in more ways that we can help them. But the business model is 100% based on legal immigration. And then if you really wanted to get into the economics behind whether or not immigration is a good thing for our country, I think you can look back on history, and there's a lot of data that points to it being a positive thing for the United States. And I think that the majority of Americans fall somewhere in that realm where, if people want to come to the United States through the legal channels, that's a good thing generally.
Having said all that, has anybody really just dumped all over you for being in this space at all, or not?
Every once in a while you have people who come up and say, you better not be helping anybody into the country that shouldn't be here and things like that. But I think that anybody who tries to dump on us for being in this space, they don't understand the space. So it's kind of, I let them say whatever they're going to say, and it's not worth my time. But I have had a few people say things. But
you've won more award monies from business plan competitions and similar type events than anybody I've seen on the scene in Utah for a long time. And this includes people like Dave Bateman from Property Solutions, who won a couple. He got all the way to Forbes, but dollars raised or won and number of awards, I've never seen anybody else do what you've done. Real basic one. How much money have you won so far doing this stuff?
So I think money that falls under the non-dilutive prize awards, as we like to call it, it's over $200,000, spread over a number of different competitions and student programs that are offered.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really impressive. How many competitions have you participated in, and how many have you won?
I think we've placed and won money at every competition that we've entered, and I think it's totals around 9, close to 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. If you were to give some tips, 2-3 tips to student entrepreneurs thinking about competing in those kinds of events, what would you tell them to do?
So I think the real secret behind Brady, Ide, and myself and us winning those competitions is when you get down to it, we are extremely competitive. We don't enter competitions that we don't think we can win. So that's the first one. Understand what they're looking for in the competition. And there's also just a lot of planning and practice. I mean, we spend hours going over all of the details of the competition, what points they want us to highlight. We do research. I do research on the judges to know their backgrounds, and maybe I should answer the question this way or that way. So it really is, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes before I actually get up there and give the showy presentation. And then also get a lot of help when you're participating in these competitions. There's usually some sort of mentors or help from people running the competitions because they want to see you succeed. Take advantage of that. It's free advice, and it's usually good advice. So that we've kind of used that as our playbook for success at the competitions. So
You look and sound great on stage. Have you had any training like acting, voice, presentation, Toastmaster, whatever?
I did do work as a DJ, as a wedding DJ.
Okay.
So kind of, but again, people will say that. They'll be like, oh, you must love being up there. You're like so natural. Like it is I get very nervous up there. And it really comes down to we're super competitive. We want to win. And there are hours and hours of practice that goes into those presentations. So it's nothing that comes natural. I think I'm getting better at it just because we do so much of it. But it's certainly nothing that you don't get better with practice. So
Hard work.
Sounds
like a lot of hard work.
Yes.
You don't just show up, smile, and talk people out of money. Huh?
No, it doesn't. They'll see through that pretty quickly.
Right now, post-boom startup, you're out raising capital.
Yep.
How's that going? What are you finding? What's the market like? What are valuations like? How open are entrepreneur or investors to your business? What are you finding out there?
It's hard for me, from my vantage point, to speak to what's going on in the market. We've been able to find the right people that are interested, that we wanted to get involved at the right price. So, and it was kind of just, we were using that playbook of going, asking for help, seeking advice, working with the different VCs and the different investors. That was kind of our process of vetting them. And then when it got to the point where we were ready to raise a round, it was more of a natural transition than knocking on the door and sending a pitch deck and then going in for a high stakes investor pitch meeting. It didn't happen that way for us. It was many months, many meetings, a lot of hours and working almost side by side with those investors, and to the point where we trusted them, and I think they saw us executing on the advice that they were giving us. So I think there's the phrase that people say, like, you go for asking for advice and you get money. You go asking for money and you get advice. I think it's very true.
So again, similar to getting ready for a pitch at these competitions, the preparation is key to how you've approached fundraising from investors as well.
Yeah, and people are more, really taking their advice and executing on the advice, because you're able to find a lot of gold nuggets of maybe you should do it this way, or maybe you should think about it this way. So being humble enough to listen to what they have to say, because they may have a fresh perspective on what you're doing, and then executing on that it comes back in spades. It's been awesome.
So have you raised your round, or are you still doing it?
I think we're a week from finalizing everything, but for all intents and purposes, it's so close to being done.
And how much?
Dollars. How much dollars? It will be a seed round on seed. It's a seed deal with seed terms. So I think the market for that is anywhere from $500K to $1 million. So
right.
it's
So
right in that range.
Great.
Yeah.
And have you had much pushback on valuation? There's a lot of information out there about valuations have skyrocketed in the last 12 months. I saw something the other day that said the average seed valuation now was over $3.5 million.
Yeah, the market is definitely hot right now, and I think that it all comes down to the question of how much dilution are you willing to accept, and how comfortable the VC is with the numbers, the stage of the business, the team. There's so many factors that go into it. But one thing that we tried to keep in mind was that whatever valuation we set now at a seed round, the VCs are going to expect us to probably at least double that valuation on the Series A. So making sure that we have realistic expectations across the board was something that I tried to keep in mind going into the negotiations, realizing that this isn't a one and done game. And so we tried to make a very educated and smart decision. But as far as pushback, I think that it's about what we expected. VCs are going to try and get a good deal, and we're going to try and get a good deal, and we're going to end up at a good spot. That's how the market works. So we're happy.
Have you, in effect, turned down anybody as an investor?
Yeah, there were definitely, as we went into raising the round, there were a few people on our radar that we were looking for, specifically institutional money. So from the get-go, it kind of didn't give us the room or the opportunity to go raise from angels. There are amazing angel networks here in Utah, and it's an awesome opportunity if it's the right business and it's the right stage and the right fit. But for us, as we looked at our plan for raising in the future, we wanted to get the institutions involved as soon as possible, and so there were a few angels that we had to say no to. So.
That's a very tough strategic choice of saying no to money and saying no to angels so that you can focus on taking a venture investor.
Yeah.
I'll bet you talked a lot with people about how to make that choice.
Yeah, and the funny thing was I talked with a lot of people hoping to find the secret answer, but nobody had the answer. There was, and that goes back to the dilution question or all these things around raising money. There's so many factors, and there's no right answer. You only know, 12 months from now or a year from now.
You've put together an impressive board of directors or advisors. Who did you pick and why?
So I'll just give you the rundown of who's on the advisory board right now. So we have Steve McCowan, who's at iSchool. He deals with data security. We have Travis Wilson from Jones Waldo, helping out with corporate. He's our legal counsel. Brent Beckley is our advisor for e-commerce. The illustrious David Bradford is also on our advisory board, kind of helping with business strategy, mainly marketing or networking. And finally, Jacob Sapochnik, who is one of the nation's prominent immigration attorneys. And we picked each of them because we were trying to get the best players, or kind of A-plus players in their areas of expertise, and picking areas that were relevant to us. So obviously data security is a big area. Kind of the e-commerce aspect of SimpleCitizen is important. And most importantly is the immigration, the legal underlying basis of what we're doing. And Jacob Sapochnik has been amazing in the fact that not only does he have an impressive background just in the legal logistics of what SimpleCitizen does, but he also, he does numerous podcasts, blogs, very active on social media. So he's kind of ahead of the curve as far as attorneys go. So that was a big, big win for us. And it all kind of, the genesis can be traced back to David Bradford and just reaching out to him and saying, hey, we're looking for somebody in data security. And he would set up an email introduction and say, take it from there, Sam. And then after that, it was working different angles and meeting with different people and trying to find somebody who was not only had the expertise, but also was a good fit with the culture of kind of the way Brady, myself, and Day work. So,
have you had to compensate them to be a part of your board?
Certainly, some people, you definitely, it's appropriate to give them incentive, whether that's you're paying them or there's an equity piece. But I think it's important that if you do that, to structure it correctly, get legal advice, make sure that you're protected and they're protected, so that you don't jump in the deep end, so to speak, before you even know if it's a good fit. So,
have you had to get D&O insurance?
No,
Okay,
not yet.
I've noticed that most entrepreneurs don't know what to do with a board of advisors or directors. They, are suddenly faced with sitting around a table looking at these people and trying to figure out, how do I use them? What should the agenda be? And most end up staring blankly at the wall and never figuring that out. How are you doing formal meetings? Just call them up when you need them. If you do formal meetings, how do you figure out an agenda for it?
So our board of advisors, they're all busy enough with their own projects that getting them all in the same room at the same time is practically impossible. That being said, when we do, we try and keep them informed with updates. We try and do those bi-monthly, every couple weeks, if not once a month. Just updates of where we are with the business, issues that we're having, challenges that they may have some solution for or know somebody who can help. But often we do reach out to them formally and have a formal meeting. This morning you may have seen Brady, Day, and myself in the conference room over here, and we had some papers laid out on the table. So we were meeting with Brent Beckley to kind of go over some of the new ways that we can convert or drive conversions on our website, different areas where we can have people pay for our product. And that was a more of a formal meeting where we had an agenda. We were prepared. I think that's the most important thing is use them by asking them questions. And if you do get them for an hour of their time, respect that and know exactly what you want out of the meeting and what they're going to get out of the meeting or what they need to bring to the meeting, and just be ready to go. And I think that's the most effective way to use anybody's time, really, not just somebody who's on your board of advisors. But these are people who are high caliber professionals who can really add some value, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not prepared. So
you raised the importance of preparation again.
Yeah.
That's your theme.
I guess so, yeah.
What's the number one skill that you have today? If you had to prioritize and say, this is my best skill today.
It'd have to be hard work. I was going back and forth between networking and hard work, but it's got to be hard work. I think at the end of the day, and this speaks for the whole team, we excel in a lot of different areas, but where we truly succeed is our work ethic. We are not afraid to burn the midnight oil and do whatever it takes to make sure that this succeeds, because we really have all chips on black, so to speak. I'm turned down KPMG. Brady, our other co-founder, was working with an interesting startup back in Portland, Oregon. He's lived there his whole life. He has now moved out here full time. Ide Soto, the other co-founder, was a day away from starting at Oracle before she joined the team. So we're all very, very committed, and we work extremely hard. So I pride myself in my ability to, whatever the problem is, just roll up my sleeves and work at it until some solution presents itself.
Hard work is really a critical professional skill. Yet, in order to make things work, you also have to think about some of the bigger skills. Most people don't put on their tombstone skilled programmer.
Yeah.
For your eulogy, what would be the one most important thing you would like them to say about Sam Stoddard as a person?
I think I'd want them to say that I cared, that I tried to give back. I can't remember if it was my grandpa or if I read this somewhere, but reading the obituaries in like the New York Times gives you a good model for how you should live your own life. And when you read those, it's surprising to see how much these extremely talented professionals gave back in their communities, whether that's through nonprofits or different work that they did. That's something that I would like to be remembered for, is that I was giving back. And I think SimpleCitizen is a great start for that, that not only is there the opportunity to have a really amazing business, but we're also really affecting people's lives for the better.
Sam, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so much wisdom.
Tell my mom that.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.